Our founding fathers knew something we seem to have forgotten. Freedom isn't free. It's not a gift handed down without cost. It's something you fight for, defend, and are willing to die for. They understood that liberty requires vigilance and sacrifice. They understood that the only way to ensure liberty is to be prepared to defend it, with force if necessary. This was a lesson learned through blood and struggle. That's why they made sure every citizen could own a gun. They believed in the power of a well-armed populace to protect their freedoms. The revolution wasn't fought with strongly worded letters or peaceful protests alone. It was won with muskets, cannons, grit, and determination. The resolve of those who fought was unyielding. Our founding fathers knew that a well-armed citizenry was the best defense against tyranny, both foreign and domestic. They saw it as a necessary safeguard. They had seen the dangers of unchecked power firsthand. The oppression they faced under British rule was a stark reminder. They knew that governments, even well-intentioned ones, could become oppressive. Power, if left unchecked, could corrupt. This wasn't just some abstract theory. It was a reality they lived through, a truth etched in their experiences. It was the lived experience of these patriots. Their struggles and sacrifices were real and profound. They enshrined the right to bear arms in the Constitution because they knew it was fundamental to a free society. This right was seen as essential to maintaining liberty. They knew that a well-armed populace was a deterrent to tyranny, a safeguard against government overreach. It was a principle they held dear, a cornerstone of their vision for a free nation. The Constitution is a document of limitations. It's not about granting rights to the government. It's about restricting government power and preserving the freedoms of the individual. The Founding Fathers understood that government is a necessary evil, a force that must be carefully constrained. They knew that power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. That's why they created a system of checks and balances, dividing power between different branches of government. And it's why they insisted on a Bill of Rights, to protect individual liberties from government intrusion. The Second Amendment, the right to bear arms, is a crucial part of this framework. It's not about hunting or sport shooting. It's about the fundamental right of self-defense, both individually and collectively. It's about ensuring that the people always have the means to resist tyranny, should it ever arise. Let's be clear. The Second Amendment is not up for debate. It's not open to interpretation. It's a clear and unambiguous statement. A well-regulated militia, being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms, shall not be infringed. The Founding Fathers chose their words carefully. Shall not be infringed means exactly that. No infringement, no restriction, no regulation. The right to bear arms is absolute, just like the right to free speech or freedom of religion. It's a cornerstone of our liberty, a right that must be fiercely protected. Some people try to twist the meaning of the Second Amendment, claiming it only applies to militias. This is nonsense. The Founding Fathers understood that the militia was made up of ordinary citizens, well-armed and ready to defend their communities. They believed that a well-armed citizenry was essential to a free state. Section 4. Gun Control, an assault on freedom. Every attempt to restrict gun ownership is an attack on our fundamental rights. It's an attempt to chip away at the very foundation of our freedom. Gun control laws don't prevent crime. They only infringe on the rights of law-abiding citizens. Criminals, by their very nature, don't obey laws. They'll always find a way to get their hands on guns, regardless of the law. What gun control really does is leave law-abiding citizens defenseless. It makes them vulnerable to criminals who don't care about the law. It's a recipe for disaster, and it's completely contrary to the vision of our Founding Fathers. The Founding Fathers knew that the best way to stop a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. They understood that a well-armed citizenry is a deterrent to crime. They knew that when citizens are empowered to defend themselves, criminals think twice before acting. Section 5. Echoes of the Founders, a chorus for armed citizens. Don't just take my word for it. The importance of a well-armed citizenry is deeply rooted in our nation's history. The Founding Fathers themselves spoke out forcefully on the importance of a well-armed citizenry. They believed it was a fundamental right and a crucial safeguard for liberty. Thomas Jefferson wrote, "No free man shall ever be debarred the use of arms." He understood that the right to bear arms was essential to preserving liberty and preventing oppression. He knew that without this right, the very foundation of freedom could be threatened. George Washington, the father of our nation, said, "A free people ought not only to be armed, but disciplined, to which end a uniform and well-digested plan is requisite." He emphasized the need for organization and training. He knew that a well-armed citizenry wasn't enough. They needed to be trained and organized to be an effective deterrent to tyranny. The founders believed that a well-regulated militia was necessary for the security of a free state. This wasn't just about having weapons. It was about being prepared and vigilant. These weren't just the opinions of a few men. It was the prevailing wisdom of the time, a collective understanding of the importance of a well-armed and ready populace. This belief was echoed in town meetings and discussions across the colonies. It was a shared conviction that resonated deeply with the people. Noah Webster, the famed lexicographer, wrote, "Before a standing army can rule, the people must be disarmed, as they are in almost every kingdom in Europe." He saw the danger of standing armies and the importance of a well-armed citizenry as a counterbalance. The founders' wisdom remains relevant today. They understood that a well-armed and organized citizenry was the best defense against tyranny and oppression. Section 6. Standing Armies, a Threat to Liberty. The Founding Fathers were deeply suspicious of standing armies. They had seen firsthand how they could be used to suppress liberty. They knew that a standing army, under the control of a tyrannical government, could easily be turned against the people. That's why they placed so much emphasis on the militia, a citizen army made up of ordinary people. They believed that the militia was a far safer and more reliable guarantor of liberty than any standing army. They understood that a standing army could be used not only to suppress internal dissent, but also to drag a nation into unnecessary foreign wars. They believed that a nation of armed citizens, capable of defending itself, would be less likely to be attacked in the first place. Section 7. Guardians of Freedom, Our Enduring Responsibility. The Founding Fathers entrusted us with a precious inheritance, the legacy of liberty. They envisioned a nation where freedom would flourish, and every citizen would have the opportunity to live without fear of oppression. They gave us the tools to defend it, the Constitution and the Second Amendment. These documents are not just pieces of paper, they are the bedrock of our freedoms and the framework of our society. It's our duty to safeguard these rights, not just for ourselves but for future generations. Teaching our children about the importance of these freedoms ensures that the legacy of liberty continues. We must resist every attempt to infringe on our right to bear arms. This right is fundamental to our ability to protect ourselves and our loved ones. We must be vigilant against those who would disarm us and leave us at the mercy of criminals and tyrants. History has shown that disarmament often precedes oppression. We must honor the legacy of our Founding Fathers by remaining a free and well-armed people. Their sacrifices and vision laid the foundation for the freedoms we enjoy today. Our freedom is not a guarantee. It is a hard-won privilege that requires constant vigilance and a willingness to defend it. It's something we must constantly fight for and defend. Every generation must take up the mantle to ensure that liberty is preserved. We must never forget the lessons of our Founding Fathers. Their wisdom and foresight are as relevant today as they were centuries ago. A well-armed citizenry is the cornerstone of a free society, the ultimate safeguard against tyranny. It is the embodiment of our right to self-defense and our commitment to liberty. The right to bear arms is not just a right, it's a responsibility. It requires us to be informed, responsible, and vigilant. It's a responsibility we owe to ourselves, to our children, and to the future of our nation. By upholding this responsibility, we ensure that the torch of freedom continues to burn brightly for generations to come. Stay frosty, my friends. Keep your head down and your powder dry.